channeling floodwaters from the lakes of Huilalu Kere through Madagalli Kere to Kukaralli Kere, supporting domestic use, irrigation, and industries like Mysuru Sandal Soap Factory, beyond and other purposes. At the same time, however, the rapid urban expansion from 2011 onwards, or we could say 2000 and onwards, has severely encroached upon these wetlands, threatening biodiversity, climate resilience, and cultural heritage. As both an ecological lifeline and a historical symbol of integrated water management, repurposing the Purnaiha Nala today is crucial, not only for conservation but also for reimagining sustainable urbanism where water, people, culture, and biodiversity coexist. On this note, I would like to welcome the partner organization, Mysuru School of Architecture, Mysuru Water Forum, and Aranya Outreach, who have been continuously working on this for the last 3+ years. And we have also got the support of Bengaluru Sustainability Forum. And for this particular design challenge, our knowledge partners, one Council of Architecture, then IUDI, that is Institute of Urban Designers India, Karnataka chapter, and Mysore School of Design. We welcome all the partners and the knowledge partners. And we also would like to acknowledge the presence of Trivikram, Architect Trivikram. Could you please put on your video, please, Trivikram? He is the chairperson of IUDI Karnataka chapter. And
Good
I do
evening.
not know if Shrikant is here.
Okay.
Shrikant, who has actually been the person who got Prasad sir to us for today's session. He is the secretary for IUDI Karnataka chapter. So we acknowledge all the other mentors of IUDI Karnataka chapter too.
Thank you.
And over to Lakshmi to please introduce Prasad sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you all to today's session. It's an honor to introduce our speaker, J.N. Prasad. Prasad is a passionate naturalist and birdwatcher with over 4 decades of experience. Through nature walks, talks, workshops, and camps, he has inspired countless individuals to connect with nature and take up birdwatching and conservation. He has worked closely with organizations, educational institutions, NGOs, and government bodies in this journey. Alongside this, he is a wellness coach, helping people lead healthier and more active lives through better nutrition and lifestyle choices. With postgraduate degree in both international marketing and ecology and environment, he has contributed to over 50 publications at national and international level. He's also a co-founder of the Merlin Nature Club, which has nurtured many passionate naturalists in Bengaluru. He also leads the Hakki Guru initiative, a wonderful volunteer network creating nest boxes for birds like sparrows and magpie robins, helping address the challenges of shrinking nesting spaces. For his outstanding contribution to the community and conservation, he has been recognized by the Rotary Club. We are truly fortunate to have him with us today. Prasad sir, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the lovely invitation and this coordination. It's a great privilege and honor for me to be here in this session amongst all the learned people, especially having such a dedication to revive a historical canal named and proposed and started by Diwan Purnaiha. And last 200 years, it's been an amazing journey within the Mysore city, and most of the people who have the history as well as the tradition and the knowledge of the old culture which we have been associated with. So it's been a great privilege and honor for me to be learning a little bit about the birds, the wildlife, and the nature environment, and especially the wetlands during our annual midwinter waterfowl census, as we used to go out counting the water birds and also the land birds in and around the wetlands around Bangalore, has given us quite a bit of knowledge about the pattern in which both the resident species of birds as well as the migrants that are visiting from not only from the northern part of India, but also from Central Asia and Europe, as well as the long distance migrants. And it's been a fascinating journey. So let me start taking you through a few of the slides, and let's get on to the subject, which is very fascinating for me and also for a lot of people who have been witnessing this. You're able to see my screen, I suppose. And so thanks to this incredible theme that you have got, Jiva Jala, Jiva Nadi. It's a very nice theme that you have. And as the vision of the Maharajas and the Diwan Purnaiha sir's mission to conserve for the future prosperity as well as the posterity of the whole population, which has been over the thousands and thousands of years that man has evolved around the water sources. Throughout the civilization, most of us have learned from our school days, from the Indus Valley civilization to all the civilization over the centuries, as have developed and survived along the water sources. So this I have taken this picture from your own presentation, and one such has been a very historical importance, the Purnaiha Nala, and it's been a very vital source for the city of Mysuru then 200 years back, and much more now with the rapidly growing Mysuru, which is been in the focus of attention for Bangalore, is already choked beyond its revival possibility. So people are looking at the rapid urbanization of Mysore as the days come in the future. And so all the more the reason there is more and more demand for the birds, wetlands, water resources, traditional knowledge. And as recently, the World Wetland Day, which was celebrated on the 2nd of February, the interesting theme for 2026 has been the celebrating the wetlands with the traditional knowledge, of not only the importance of bringing the waters closer to the people, as well as sustaining the livelihood as the life is interlaced with the wetlands and the people, and they have been living together for several thousands of years. Now, we need to understand why wetlands are important. And most often, if you hear a politician's remarks, nothing to be worried about the wetlands, they're all wastelands, just like they call even the grasslands as wastelands. So wetlands, they think more, and most of the wetlands, if you ask any government official here in Bangalore, they often talk about as the wetlands is the sewage patch which they have collected so that they would be able to aerate and let into the water bodies. But that's the belief they have. But wetlands are much more beyond. They are living the whole part of sustainability all over the world. Now, if you take the unique planet, the only planet that is known to have water, although the latest the spacecraft that has gone orbiting the moon, Artemis, is also looking for that icy region in the moon. But all known sources of water that the Earth has got for the billions of years is, if you take the entire planet of Earth, it looks blue because of the moisture and the water content from this space. But all the water content which is there, majority of it is saline or the sea water. But if you take the total water of both fresh water as well as salt water put together as 100%, then if you might be wondering how much is the portion of the fresh water. Fresh water is about just 2.5% among that 100%. In that, most of it is frozen and not readily available for use. And also, the available drinking water is only less than 1% that is available for us. So it's all the more the reason why we need to pay attention to conserve this water. It's very, very crucial for not only for our survival, but also for all the living creatures all over the world. Now, the benefits of the wetlands are enormous, that they are able to not only sustain life, but they're also central well-being for our own human society as well. And they have been connected not just with the history, but the for the growing of the crops, or to sustain ourselves, to quench our thirst, and to carry about our own living livelihoods, and also play a very crucial role in climate change, as well as the regulation and control, as well as the water has been a part and parcel of our culture and the biodiversity too. So the importance of wetland, as you can see, is not only diversity, but also in the kind of sustainability, because we all as human beings need our pranavayu, the much needed oxygen. And there's been a very, very important exchange of gases between the carbon dioxide and the oxygen with us, and the plants and the biomass that is all part of the wetlands. And many people during the Vana Mahotsava, they say the trees are important, and on June 5th, they go about frenzy planting the saplings, but don't even bother about to look back what has happened apart from taking a few selfies and posting it on their social media. That's about the care that we take about our nature. And because they think that the plants and the trees are the ones which are good enough for us to sustain, to uptake the carbon dioxide and give out the oxygen which is needed. And a committee of a few experts calculated the amount of trees needed for one adult human beings for survival. They calculated each adult human being the amount of oxygen needed per year for their breathing on a daily basis requires at least about seven full grown trees to be in his vicinity, so that the carbon dioxide which he breathes out is absorbed by the trees around him and give out the oxygen which is much needed. So if a family of 5 people are living in one home, 5 into 7, about 35 trees are needed. But the wetlands have also been playing a very, very significant role, and they need not have the large boundaries of the forest or the tree cover needed. But the amount of aquatic vegetation itself has a much more ability to uptake the carbon by photosynthesis, and the oxygen that is released out is helpful for all the living beings that depend on oxygen. So the climate change is another important aspect that we are all talking about on a daily basis. Now we have, as we say in Bangalore, we have only 3 major seasons now: hot, hotter, and the hottest. But over 90% of the wetlands today is already lost. And that's one of the reasons the concrete structures and the roads and the buildings are all reflecting the sunlight back into the world around us, which is heating up the whole air. So the challenge has been that we remember and often celebrate the World Wetland Day only on the 2nd of February, and a few media outlets cover about this, but then they forget about it. We only talk about the climate change when there is the unseasonable rains, or very heavy rains, or the severe drought that will repeat as a cycle. But the challenge has been that we have a lot more absorption of the carbon intake, as I mentioned about, from the wetlands. One calculation by the experts from the World Wetland Organization says that the carbon uptake from the wetlands is far more than 1 million trees, about 10 lakh trees in about 4 years put together. That's the amount of contribution the carbon dioxide is absorbed by the wetland. So you can imagine that we have to give a lot more priority for our the wetlands and their conservations. So some things what is happening in Mysuru city is not far from comparison to Bangalore city. It is also growing vertically these days now, not just horizontally expanding from the center of Mysore city. Like Bangalore, that as the demand for the real estate boom is growing, there is more and more demand for that. The land areas, especially the wetlands and the surrounding areas, are encroached upon. And that leaves a big challenge. Another major challenge has been that what to do with the wastewater that is flushed out of our toilets. Where does it all lead to? How does it go into? And all the municipal corporations and the bodies, what they do, especially the sewage and like the Bangalore water supply and sewage department, has to manage these wastewater. So they have set up the sewage treatment plants to redirect the water so that they can store in the deepened lakes around Bangalore city. I think the similar effort has been done in several of the lakes in and around Mysore city as well. But the challenge has been that many of these sewage treatment plants, most of it, are not functioning to the way and the extent it is to be supposed to be working. And as a result of that, the stages of recycling that wastewater into the usable water is becoming very, very scarce. And as a result of that, high organic content is much more present in the lakes as a result of the eutrophication. And in most of the lakes in and around Bangalore, you might have observed, has become like a green palak soup. So that's one deepened lake with increased storage capacity, has got a high eutrophication because of the algal bloom, and you have a lot of those scooped up mud from the lakes has been put out in the center as an island, and a few trees which are unplanned and planted are being used by a few birds for nesting. But then fortunately, wrong choices of tree species is not helping them to the nest in the islands as well. Apart from that, there has been the several department in Bangalore. The challenge has been that the lake authority, which used to be managed by the forest department, is handed over to the BBMP, the Bangalore municipal authorities nowadays to manage the lakes. Now it's become Greater Bangalore Authority. And these people have to manage, the sewage is managed by the PWSSP, another government department. The water supply is one more thing. The roads and the infrastructure and the parks are horticulture department. And there's so much of mismanagement in the sense that because of poor coordination. And each department has no consensus because there is no purpose and no clarity about the whole thing. So as a result of that, some recreational facilities being made in places, but unfortunately, it is being only used for certain category of morning walkers or a few pigeons that frequent these places. But not much of help is being contributed. So it's an opportunity for you in Mysore when you're working out on this prestigious Purnaiha Canal, and it's something restoration can be worked out because we have the annual rainy season. We have two major seasons of rain which comes to the Bangalore and Mysore region, which is the southwest monsoon, and also we have the northeast monsoon in October, November time. And there's an important place because many of these lakes are very crucial in managing the flooding as well as also sustaining by holding the water and allowing it to seep gradually and increasing the groundwater table. Now, what is most crucial is managing, because many of the buildings in and around the cities like Mysore and Bangalore, we have a major challenge because the underground water table is depleted. And in fact, right now in the neighboring road, we have an attempt to dig up the borewells. Four borewells have failed, and they're still making another attempt to find the water source. It's very pathetic situation. 2,000 feet, and they're not able to reach the water, and it's really unfortunate situation. And when just a few decades back, when many of the people constructed their houses, even if they dig up 1 or 2 feet for the foundation, they would get the water. And that's how high the water level was. But unfortunately, these days, it's gone beyond such a terrible situation now. Now, what is the role? Why do we need to store the rainwater, and what is the importance of percolating into the groundwater level, as well as recharging the canal, as well as the water bodies? Most important thing is that for not just for the flood control, but also it's important during the dry months, the peak summer, to sustain the wetland species, as well as to manage the nutrients into the soil, and also the sediment contaminants, and also they provide an ideal support for a variety of bird life, fish life, frogs, reptiles, and even mammals as well. And they are very crucial in sustaining. It provides not only the recreational, it also gives a cool environment, as you might experience when you go around for a walk around the Kukrali Lake. You'll see that cool breeze will help you to forget about the hot summer weather, which even in spite of keeping the AC and the fans running throughout 24 hours is not helping the sufficient cooling of the heated house and the roads around. And it's something very, very important that these streams will not only release from a higher elevation, the water level gradually overflows into the downward lake and into the canal to reach another lake. And that's how the city of Bangalore and Mysore had been planned to harvest the rainwater at the sources. And that is something seems to have been forgotten by many people. Now, what the challenge is that the essence of clean water is so terrible that the kind of the analysis of the water analysis done in several lakes, in spite of having the sewage treatment plant adjoining, which is supposed to have cleared the sewage treatment processing, is not fit for consumption by the fishes as well as the other aquatic creatures, let alone human or domestic use by the animals too. And it's also has been reflected to have for a lot of heavy metal ions and residues, and lot of vegetables grown using these lake waters has been known to have been contaminated with heavy metals, like including lead as well. And many of the vegetables has been analyzed, and all these vegetables got those heavy metals and the pollutants from the lake water that was used, and also through the groundwater has been also polluted in many places too. And you might have heard about several situations and newspaper reports. Now, how does it matter for us, and what do the birds tell us? Actually, birds are very good indicators of the wetland status. That's why we started counting these water birds, and also to monitor them from 1987 onwards. And at that time, we had visited even a team to train a group of people in Mysuru to do this waterfall census. And I'm glad that we have a fantastic team of naturalists in Mysuru who are continuing a lot of mapping of these bird diversity. And they're doing it such a meticulous method that Mysore Bird Atlas is something which is very, very proud of to be looked into. They're going around counting the birds, both the resident and the migratory birds during the two times in a year, and by 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers grid. It's really fantastic, fascinating thing. I would strongly suggest you to join that team to learn more about the kind of birds in and around Mysore city and what is happening over the years. It's really, really fascinating. And birds have different needs. Different kinds of birds have different needs. And then we have all these birds which are shown in this illustration are found in and around Mysore city. And you find the majority of them even in Kukrali Kere as well, and Karanji Kere too. And it's really fantastic to watch these birds. And if the lake is heavily polluted, you'll find a certain number of birds of certain kinds which are high in numbers, and some birds like the piking fishers, which preferred the transparency in the water, because they need that clear water so that they have a clear line of sight, so that they can see for the fishes while hovering above the water. And this is the pied kingfish, the black and white bird on the branch here, which is famous for hovering in the mid-air and then diving into the water to catch the fish, which is remarkable, actually, the ability it does. You have a lot of birds. Some of them, like these ducks, are swimming, the pelicans in the middle of the water. And there are some, like the waders, which are on the periphery of the lake edges. And then you have long-legged wading birds, which, like the herons and the storks, can wade into a little deeper into the water. And there are some birds which are dependent on the floating vegetation, and some are dependent on the submerged vegetation. And it's really fascinating how these birds coexist, and it's really amazing. Now, if you look at any structure of a wetland or a canal, typically one end is the deep water, and or in the center, and as the shoreline, it has to be a narrow, gradual slope. And what I meant was the submerged vegetation, which are under the water. There are some vegetations which are anchored to the base of the soil under the water, and there are some emergent vegetation shooting out of the water, and as well as some floating vegetation which floats on the water, sometimes anchored, sometimes growing on the water itself. And there are several species of birds, and all these are tiny. You may not be able to see this so clearly in this image, but they're all the birds of different kinds, showing which part of the lake they prefer to inhabit. And so the shallow wet waters has got much more diversity than the deep waters. And only those which have webbed feet, like the ducks and the pelicans or the cormorants, can frequent the deep waters, whereas the long-legged birds can visit on the forage here on the periphery, and also short-legged birds which are on the shoreline here. So all kind of design is needed. But unfortunately, these days, what is happening is, unlike the traditional old method, the lakes used to dry up in summer and get filled up in once the rains come, and that was an annual cycle. And that was what actually was natural cleansing process, and the plants would die off and then regrow after the season, and the fish and the birds would come back. Now, what has happened is, because of the modern technology of construction, we using the earth moving equipment, we scoop out deep into the soup bowl design, and the embankment are channelized and not like the gradual shoreline. So all those of you who are civil engineers, builders, and architects paying attention to this session, so anytime you're designing a lake or a canal, please pay respect to this format, which will help a lot more diversity. Rather than, not all fishes live in the deep water. There are many fishes and reptiles and frogs find forage and refuge in the kind of the shallow waters. So it's very important for us, not just the deep soup bowl design, or just like a square or rectangular channel that you plan often, because it's easier to build up that way. But this is something which is beneficial not only for the long-term maintenance and slow evaporation of water, but also to prevent the eutrophication, that is the increase in the organic matter or the natural degradation. Because these plants absorb many of the organic matter and grow well, and recycling and filtering, they are actually natural filters, and that's what they do. And also this shallow shoreline helps a lot of birds, because different birds have got different needs. Just like as architects and builders and the students of the modern urban designing, you may have different needs for your housing or the offices or the university complexes, right? Similarly, some of you may have a requirement for 1 BHK apartment, like kind of things, or somebody might want to have 2 or 3 BHK and with a car garage, and maybe you have a need for a sump tank and overhead tank, and all these specifics you may have. And some of you might want to have a terrace garden or a garden to grow plants with, or having a lush greenery around. your requirement. That may be your requirement, but some of them might be happy with just only a matchbox like kind of apartments with all around only walls and only gray concrete all around and nothing beyond that. And they would like to prefer to keep their buildings cool with the air conditioners, which is power guzzlers. But here is one thing: what do birds indicate? What about their nesting requirements, which gives us a clue? And many of us think birds live in nest throughout their year. No, that's not true. Birds build nest only during the breeding season, which is about for a month or two, during the peak season only. They are seasonal bird nesters. They don't nest all the time. Some of you might have been familiar with the penguin, which does not build any birds nest at all. They just only lay eggs on the pebbles, and then the male scoops up the egg onto between the 2 feet and sits over it so that it can give the warmth with its the feather. And of course, penguin is not found in Mysuru, but you'll find them in the colder regions. But similarly, there are so many other shoreline birds like the lapwings and the stone curlews and the river terns and all in and around Mysuru. They lay eggs on the island, on the ground itself or on the shoreline. And some of them prefer to nest like the grebes, the dabchick, on the floating vegetation. Some of them, like the purple swampan, prefer floating vegetation. Whereas the flamingos, which you find them on the coastal regions, and they scoop up the mud and lay an egg, and they are excellent in managing the incubation of an egg just by sitting on that mud platform. There are some birds like the kingfishers and the bee eaters. They dig up the tunnel-like thing on the shoreline. That's why it's important to have the gradual shorelines and leave spaces in between the stones so that they can have the nest made up. Because most of the bund lining as well as the canals are concretized and cemented up. So at least you can keep some of the pipes and with sand for these birds to nest so that they can dig up the sand and make a burrow into the sides of the walls of these channels. And that has to be done on the high tide, above the tide line, so that the water will not flood their nest. There are certain other birds like the megapode, which lay eggs deep inside decaying leaves, and the heat generated from the decaying leaves are the ones which incubates these. So that's another way. And then there are some birds which build nests on the bushes or the cavities. There are some are the dome shaped or the platform shaped, like the storks and the herons. Like you see some of them nesting in Kukrali Lake and in Rangathitu. And there are some which are like the weaver birds, which have the hanging pouch like pendant nests. And then we have some tailor birds stitch their leaves, and the Ashiprinias, they'll do that. And there are some swifts and martins are all building up the nests on the older buildings in Mysuru near your palace. And you can see that in one of the older temples and churches in Mysuru. And there are some birds like the kingfishers are again or on the burrowing nests. So different birds have got different needs, and they may or may not reuse the same old nest. Only the kites and the birds of prey reuse the nest, but there are some birds, they may use it as a dormitory for a short while for the young one until they're confident to live independently on their own. So these are some of the different needs for the bird nest we need to consider. As I mentioned, Mysuru region has got a rich biodiversity, and we have nearly 75% of the Karnataka's birds in Mysuru city and Mysuru district. And last year's census in Mysuru itself, over 224 species of birds has been recorded, and it's really amazing that in spite of the urbanization, in spite of the encroachment, in spite of the deforestation and loss of habitat, you are very lucky you still have so many around you. So you need to preserve that. And in fact, the India's biodiversity, if you compare about the bird population, the entire countries, you have at least about 30% of them. and you have an enormous number of freshwater species of fish, and including some of the endemics from the Kaveri River, and some of the fishes that were 45 species of fish has been thing, but many of them very sensitive to the pollution. And you have endemic species like the mashir, which is prefers the fast-flowing Kaveri rivers, and they're threatened and endangered too. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people who have a different kind of passion to have aquarium at home. They buy exotic fish from different countries, and they, as they overgrow and they get bored of the fish in the aquarium, they go and release it into the lakes and the wetlands around our cities. And we have even the American turtles in our lakes now. We have the fishes, which are African fishes, which are eating of the native Indian fishes too. Which terrible thing, with a lack of awareness and lack of what do you call, or totally ignorant people are doing this kind of havoc. Just like many ignorant people introduced exotic species of plants. So the floral diversity also, Mysore has recorded over 432 species of plants in a single ecosystem. It's really remarkable diversity that you have. And you can bring back a lot more by actually carefully planning, greening, and also restoring with the local as well as those which help in providing the food both for insects as well as birds, butterflies, dragonflies, damselflies. And you have an enormous corridor that you can build, because many of these dragonflies as well as butterfly species migrate, not just the birds that migrate. So you can provide the continuous corridor and a home for them. It acts as a refuge for them during the winter months, and it's really remarkable. And one such classic dragonfly, which has migration record, which is known to cross over the Arabian Sea. It originates its migration in the Ganges Ganga River and travels over the South India, flies over non-stop over the Arabian Sea into the South and Central Africa, where they breed, and it's really remarkable globe wanderer things. You'll find them sometime in October, November time. You will find them migrating in thousands over Mysore city as well. And it's amazing that we have a lot of diversity that has to be only preserved, restored with vegetation can improve their numbers. And just to give you a couple of stories that I wish Mysore city does not follow the wrong model of Bangalore city has done. And we have been actually having the scarcity of water, and we have three major the valley system, which the water from the higher level flows down to the lower level lake, and the sewage treatment plant managing the entire infrastructure now flooding them. And it's been a big, huge mess with all new soup bowls being made. And this is a map of Bangalore city as it's grown over the years. In the last the 30, 40 years of growth, all those red is the constructed built up area. And you can see how from 1970 to 2020, even now 2026, it's even grown red. So this is the unfortunate part of the situation in Bangalore. And the water bodies are diminishing, and now their latest buffer zone has been reduced to even 5 meters to 15 meters in some places. It's crazy the way things are growing up. And birds are trying to adjust and accommodate, but whether the flood management or the scarcity of water, we have a big challenge coming up. And Bangalore, you might have been reading about in the newspapers, we already have either too severe floods or the severe water shortage, as the geological condition is so bad now, with the groundwater levels depleting and including the bore wells running dry. It's really a pathetic situation, and how we're going to save the citizens. It's going to be a nightmare in the coming years. And there's said to be at least 60% of the people in the world will be actually having severe crunch for water by the year 2030. This is what the world's wetland organization says. It's a caution and a warning, because the facts are facts. It's something. So over 700 million people could be displaced by this extreme water scarcity. It's already happening in many places, and many people are shifting. And there are a lot of people, and many people are dependent on water for their livelihood, and they are actually struggling. And 85% of the wetlands have already lost since the pre-industrial era, and the rate is actually is accelerating. And 72% of all water withdrawals are used for agriculture purpose, and already the contamination is so much, and as such, it's amazing. Half of the world's largest cities are already having this huge water scarcity. And many people are dependent on fish as a staple source, not only for their livelihood, but also for their source as protein. And it is something which is going to be contaminated. Eating contaminated fish is going to be a deadly health concern too. So this is the challenge we have. And already 170 countries have signed up to the Ramsar Treaty, and India signed up in 1971. The famous Ramsar in Iran, which is now all in the news, was the place where the declaration was signed. And actually, now we have in 96 of the Ramsar sites in India. It's grown up, but still over 7.5 lakhs wetlands are mapped in India, but only 96 are there, including only 4 from Karnataka. And now it's 98 Ramsar site in India, not 96, sorry. So what can we do? Creating awareness to the people, the neighborhood community, involving them every stage of them, encouraging them to take their family for nature walks and awareness and bird watching session, to lead them into creating. Once they fall in love with the birds, wildlife around them, they will want to do something back. And you don't care about anything that you don't love, and you care about your own family members because you love them. The same way you are all going to be actually thrilled to see and observe, even if you do not know the names of these insects or birds or the fishes, but just admire about their ability to survive in spite of all the odds that are happening. So this is a big thing. So every wetland matters, every effort counts, every canal restoring the water sources matters a lot. And this is something which is very, very concerned and has to be brought by every one of us too. So thank you for giving me the time and the opportunity. I think I will end the slides here. And if you have any questions, I have another thing about 10 minutes or so. I would be take on any questions that you may have, although I'm not an expert in your field of the construction or the designing or the architecture or how to restore per se. But I'm sure we can go work with the team and help in restoring, and also bring reconnect with some. So we have very good experts in Bangalore and Mysuru who can be willing to help you. Okay. So thank you. Over to you, Lakshmi Madam or Dr. Champa.
So that was very informative. Literally,
Thank you.
we went from the bigger aspects to the smallest of the detail, and how community also has to come together and join. I think it was literally like, opening all the information at one, such a short presentation, or I wouldn't even say presentation, rather you were sharing your knowledge that you have acquired over the years. So thanks to you so much for that, sir. I think Trivikram, you have a question for sir?
Yes, ma'am. It's
Yes.
more than about a question. I think sir has reoriented us on how selfish we are in the cities. That is first thing that I got, and I was really happy to see these things because it brought back certain childhood memories of mine, because there was a small nala beside our house. and the kind of things that you were saying. I was in somewhere around 5th or 6th standard, but there were not many houses like how you have been explaining on the types of birds. I used to play beneath a huge tamarind tree, and I used to play marbles there. Buffaloes were tied around, and then there used to be a huge pond there, a water system from where the paddy fields were being supplied water. So all the herons used to come and nest on that particular tree in the evening. So every evening we used to sit and count how many herons are actually going. It was outnumbered, we couldn't count, but they used to come and make it as their home. It used to be a beautiful place, but as you showed, the same situation everywhere, where we have actually worked for our selfishness and brought new concrete instead of these things. We have forgotten what actually green means to us. Even as an urban designer, we talk about how should a human experience the place, how should he walk on the street, walkability, that is, including numbers of saying that, oh, he should walk like that, he should. But unfortunately, we have forgotten how the birds fly, where should they go, what should they do in case if there is light pollution also is a grave concern for birds. They do miss their directions. Sound is also a major problem for them. So I think the dimension that you brought in today was really inspiring for me. I thank you very much, sir, for on behalf of IUDI, my team. Shrikant is also there. I should really thank Shrikant for bringing you on board. I think it opens up a new challenge to us on, especially I like the slide where how a bird actually makes itself convenient on that particular lake bed and the section that you have shown. It was really inspiring, and the kind of housing typologies that you are trying to refer on, how we actually choose our houses and how the trees or the habitat is chosen by these birds to nest actually correlates to me very strongly. I really thank you very much, sir. I was actually very much glued to your presentation. I'm really thankful for your effort and your knowledge. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Sir, I have a question to you.
Yes, please.
Now, there's so much of information across from the villages to the learnt lot, whatever we may call it as. Now, why are we still not able to understand that, we are only one of the living organism on this earth? Because you have been in this for the last 30, 40 years, and then, you have met lot more people than us. So how do you think, even today's youngsters become very important to that?
True. Yes, traditional knowledge. In fact, this year's theme of the World Wetlands Organization is based on using the traditional theme to build back not only the correlation between the human civilization but also the wetlands and the need for their coexistence. As our Prime Minister always keeps saying that "Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas," but he's referring to every human entity as coexistent, irrespective of the religion or politics or the regional parties. He may be referring in terms of the campaign, but actually, what actually it means is to living with every other living beings as well, not just human beings, every other insect or bird or animal or every other coexistence. As a villager, if you go back their house construction, if you see older buildings, they would even leave some holes for the birds to come and nest. And if I remember my own grandfather's home also, there would be plenty of opportunities for the sparrows to come inside and nest as well. So we used to have that kind of a bonding amongst our own coexistence with the living creatures. But these days, what is happening? We are not even allowing the mosquitoes to come in. Of course, mosquitoes are the major killers. I agree with that. They do spread diseases too. But do you know those dragonflies are far more efficient mosquito controllers than a mosquito repellent which is sold in any supermarket or used in homes? And they eat. We all have experienced how easy or difficult is for us to squat a mosquito or with a mosquito repellent bat or to squash it, or pest is to prevent with a mosquito net, right? But these wildlife, there are several species of insect eaters which are like the dragonfly. The larvae inside the water eats the mosquito larvae. At the same time, as an adult dragonfly, which is aerial creature, feeds on a winged mosquito which is flying around in the air. So they control far more better way than most of the pesticides or any of the repellents that man has created. And not only those pesticides are harmful for us to use, whereas we are not aware of the traditional rural knowledge of utilizing these local denizens. And this is the challenge, miscommunication, forgotten traditions, that old stories which used to help us to coexist. That's exactly what was there. And that is missed out. I think that is what we need to re-narrate these stories to, not just the students all around us, but also for the adults who are the decision makers. But anyway, catch them young, because these present day students are the ones who are going to be occupying the high positions as they grow up to be the citizens ruling our country.
Thank you very much for that information, sir. Yes, as you rightly said, what our grandfathers used to be, the knowledge or the wise, today's youngsters' grandparents are not the same. That also makes a lot of difference. Anybody else in the audience, if you have any questions, so you may please unmute and ask question. Yes,
Yeah,
Shrikant.
sir, thank you for the very interesting session. It precisely dealt topics of canal edge treatment and how waterfront can be designed to support avian life, and why avian adaptation is very important to create safe feeding, nesting, and resting habitats, while also balancing flood control, water quality improvement, and public recreational use. The idea of waterfront development at the core always has this recreational or aesthetic features for the people, but when we have ecology at the core, that is when we can really achieve just city and equitable city. And when we say equitable, we have to consider ecology also. Thank you again. And my question is, how efficient are floating wetlands in or how practical they are in canal infrastructure, because in some of the lakes in India, they have already started using waste plastic and creating some biomass which can and using some plants which can reduce algal blooms and filter pollutants, and also they can provide fish breeding zones, bird nesting spots. They also improve oxygen levels in water. So can how feasible are these floating wetlands in canal infrastructure? And I mean, is there any module or which you have come across,
Yes,
which you can share?
it's a very good question. Thank you, Shrikant. It's really important that can be done. And you might have seen it in many of the Bangalore lakes have already implemented some of this. But some in Tamil Nadu, Coimbatore especially, has got a lot of these vetiver grasses being used as a floating vegetation. There are so many plant species that absorb, including our own exotic species. Water hyacinth is the classic example in absorbing many of the heavy metal ions. It's a plant that has been accidentally introduced into India and rest of the world, but unfortunately it grows very wild and very fast. It doubles its biomass in about a week's time. That's how fast it can grow. But at the same time, it is also very good in absorbing the heavy metal ions, and it can be a very easiest thing, but it has to be manually removed as it grows. So that has to be done. If you ignore and come back after 1 week, the whole lake will be covered with that. So that's how fast it grows. That's there are several such things, and the floating vegetation does help birds and many insects, and also offer the refuge for the fishes. But the conflict between the fisheries department and the other departments which want to have recreational facility like boating. And these are the people who don't like floating vegetables, floating vegetations, or this kind of plants. So it has to be managed at a portion, and probably in some lakes in Bangalore, the local resident welfare association has taken over the fishing rights as well. They have also bid for the fisheries tender and taken over, instead of giving it to a commercial fisherman who puts some exotic, fast growing fish species into the water and fishes and sells that for his commercial needs. But these people have done is introduce the local variety of fishes, and they are not harvesting, and they're leaving it to the birds and nature to take care of them. So that lake has been reviving that way, and it's got increased biodiversity. So floating vegetation helps both, not just the species under the water, but also over the water on the plants like birds and insects as well. It's very good idea, very good in controlling the heavy metal pollution as well.
Thank you for that information, sir. Now, I just want to know briefly, could you just talk about the Haki Gudu you had mentioned? Because we may want to make use of this opportunity to invite you to Mysore also, so that, I mean, as all of already you know that Mysore Nature is doing lot of work. Okay, but still we would want to invite you. And then how do you think we could take it forward?
Uh, yes, can be done online as well as in person. We use. I'll just show you a couple of slides. Hope you have time, and
Yes.
I think
And thanks to all of you. And thanks to Shrikant for bringing in Prasad sir today. And Trivikram, you all have been wonderful collaborators for us. Thanks to all of you, please. And a very good night to one and all. Prasad sir, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you. Good night.
And
Thank you,
thanks to all the participants and students and collaborators, please. Thank you.